For our last story tonight, let's talk about the land where time seems to stand still. The land with a relentless sun and rippling sand. I'm talking about the Sahara Desert. NASA has released satellite images. They capture the desert's green shift with plant life popping up everywhere, adding color to the typically arid land. Why is this happening?
Beneath the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert, hidden for millennia beneath layers of windblown sand and time, lies one of Earth's most extraordinary geological formations, the Eye of the Sahara, or the Richat Structure. From space, it appears as a colossal spiral, a near-perfect circular feature stretching over 40 kilometers across in the heart of Mauritania. For decades, its hypnotic rings have puzzled scientists, inspiring myths of lost civilizations and alien activity. Yet recent scientific explorations beneath this enigmatic formation have uncovered something so profound that it has reshaped the understanding of Africa's deep geological history, and perhaps even humanity's ancient presence on the continent. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates.
I think we're looking again at a lost technology, and it was this ancient apocalypse 12,800 years ago that wiped that from the human memory bank.
The Eye of the Sahara was long thought to be a simple geological oddity, possibly the remnants of a meteorite impact. Its concentric rings seemed to fit the pattern of an impact crater, and for years that was the dominant hypothesis. But as satellite imaging improved and field studies became more advanced, researchers began to realize the structure didn't bear the usual hallmarks of an impact site. There was no evidence of shocked quartz, no signs of extraterrestrial metals, and no central uplift consistent with such an event. Instead, beneath the sandy surface, scientists found signs of a massive ancient dome, an uplifted section of Earth's crust that had been eroded over hundreds of millions of years, exposing the layers of rock in a mesmerizing spiral pattern. But the most shocking discoveries began when a team of geologists and archaeologists conducted a deep subsurface scan of the region using ground-penetrating radar and seismic mapping technology. What they found beneath the eye was not just geological beauty. It was evidence of something constructed, something organized, something that suggested deliberate design in an area once believed to be lifeless desert. Deep beneath the surface, in the fractured bedrock and beneath layers of sediment, patterns emerged, geometric arrangements, anomalous cavities, and linear corridors that defied explanation as mere natural formations. The data revealed tunnels stretching for hundreds of meters, chambers that seemed to be positioned with precision, and materials whose composition didn't match the surrounding rock strata. When researchers drilled samples from these anomalies, they discovered deposits of silica and carbon compounds arranged in unnatural formations as though they had been fused or shaped by intense heat at some point in deep antiquity. The radiometric dating of these samples shocked the entire scientific community. The material appeared to be more than 12,000 years old, dating back to a time before the rise of the earliest known African civilizations. This finding alone challenged conventional timelines of human development, suggesting that a sophisticated culture may have existed in the Sahara long before the desert became what it is today. The implications were staggering. If these structures were indeed human-made, they predated the Great Pyramids of Egypt by several millennia. Moreover, their proximity to what many theorists have long speculated could be the lost city of Atlantis reignited global fascination. For years, proponents of the Atlantis theory have pointed to the Eye of the Sahara as a possible candidate for Plato's fabled city, a circular metropolis surrounded by concentric rings of land and water. The discovery of ancient artificial tunnels and chambers beneath the formation added fuel to this long-debated possibility. Yet scientists were cautious. They sought to understand the geological context first. Seismic imaging revealed that beneath the eye lay an enormous network of aquifers and fossilized river channels, remnants of a time when the Sahara was not a desert, but a lush, fertile region teeming with life. Millions of years ago, the area that is now barren sand was home to vast lakes, flowing rivers, and thriving ecosystems. Some of the subsurface patterns discovered beneath the eye appeared to align with these ancient waterways, suggesting that early human or proto-human civilizations could have settled here, drawn by abundant resources. As excavations continued, researchers found fossilized remains of marine life embedded deep within the structure, evidence that the area had once been submerged. This finding provided clues about the dramatic climatic shifts that turned fertile plains into one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet, alongside these natural relics, artifacts began to appear. Fragments of tools, smooth stones shaped into perfect spheres, and what appeared to be carvings etched into the rock faces of subterranean chambers. Each new discovery blurred the line between geology and archaeology. Perhaps the most baffling find was a chamber located nearly 30 meters below the central dome. The chamber was sealed by a thick layer of sediment, yet when opened, it revealed patterns on its walls that seemed to depict astronomical alignments. Carvings resembling constellations, the lunar phases, and solar symbols were arranged with astonishing precision. Using modern star mapping software, researchers discovered that these depictions matched the position of the stars as they would have appeared approximately 13,000 years ago, around the time the last ice age was ending. The realization was almost beyond belief. It suggested that whoever created these carvings possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy, far beyond what was previously attributed to prehistoric cultures of that era. Further analysis of the chamber's interior showed traces of a magnetic anomaly, as if the area had once been subjected to an immense electromagnetic event. Instruments detected unusual mineral alignments, hinting at exposure to high-energy phenomena. Some researchers speculated that the eye might have formed as part of a massive geological upheaval, possibly linked to ancient volcanic activity or a subterranean explosion that reshaped the local landscape. If human settlements had existed in the area at the time, such an event could have wiped them out, leaving behind only the fragmented traces that scientists are now beginning to uncover. Yet, even as the scientific data piled up, the mysteries deepened. When core samples were taken from the outer rings of the structure, microscopic examination revealed traces of rare isotopes, elements typically found only in meteorites or in areas subjected to extreme pressure. This suggested that the eye's formation might indeed have involved a cosmic event after all, perhaps not an impact in the conventional sense, but a combination of deep mantle uplift and extraterrestrial influence. The possibility that an ancient meteorite triggered the geophysical processes leading to the eye's creation became an exciting new line of research. Geochemists analyzing the samples noted similarities between the minerals found in the eye and those from ancient volcanic domes elsewhere on Earth, particularly in regions associated with continental breakup. This reinforced the idea that the Richat structure was once part of a massive geological dome formed as supercontinents drifted apart. The eye may thus represent a geological scar, a silent witness to Earth's cataclysmic internal forces. But even if its origins were purely natural, the presence of distinctly artificial patterns and ancient artifacts buried within it still demanded explanation. A multidisciplinary team of researchers, geologists, archaeologists, paleoclimatologists, and even linguists, began piecing together the puzzle. They found that the surrounding region contained numerous petroglyphs, stone circles, and burial mounds dating back thousands of years. Some of these structures aligned perfectly with the eye's outer rings when plotted via satellite. It was as though ancient builders had used the massive formation as a reference point, perhaps even as a sacred site. If true, it meant the eye had been a focal landmark for humanity for far longer than anyone had realized. Drone surveys revealed even more. Beneath the dunes stretching outward from the eye's perimeter, infrared imaging detected large rectangular shapes consistent with ancient foundations. These were not random patterns created by erosion. They appeared to be the remains of long-buried structures, possibly temples or communal dwellings. Each new scan expanded the scope of what lay hidden, suggesting that an entire forgotten city might be entombed beneath the sands. Scientists working on site described a profound sense of awe at the scale and precision of what they were uncovering. It seemed as though a civilization had once thrived here, harnessing advanced knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and engineering. The positioning of certain subterranean chambers mirrored solstice alignments, while others seemed to correspond to the orbital paths of planets visible to the naked eye. Such sophistication was not expected from a society existing over 10 millennia ago, yet the evidence was impossible to dismiss. The implications reached far beyond archaeology. If these findings proved authentic, They could rewrite the narrative of human history, forcing scholars to reconsider where civilization truly began. The notion that complex societies might have arisen independently across different regions, not just in Mesopotamia, Egypt, or the Indus Valley, became increasingly plausible. Africa, often considered the cradle of humanity but not necessarily of early civilization, could now claim a legacy of advanced prehistoric culture that predates the known record. At the same time, geological studies of the eye's composition revealed that it was rich in minerals vital to understanding Earth's evolution. The circular layers exposed by erosion acted like pages of a deep-time book, each ring recording a different era in the planet's history. From the central quartzite core to the outer layers of sandstone and volcanic rock, scientists could trace the rise and fall of ancient seas, the birth of mountains, and the shifting of continents. Some layers even contained evidence of microbial life dating back hundreds of millions of years, offering clues about early biological evolution. As the findings became public, the Eye of the Sahara transformed from a mere curiosity into one of the most significant scientific sites on Earth. Teams from universities around the world began collaborating, using AI-assisted modeling to reconstruct what the region might have looked like during its prime. These simulations revealed that the area could have supported vast networks of rivers and lakes, forming a lush habitat ideal for early human settlement. The circular structure, once thought accidental, might have actually guided water flow, a natural design that could have inspired human architecture in ways previously unimagined. Satellite-based gravitational mapping brought yet another surprise. Beneath the eye, deep in the crust, a massive density anomaly was detected, a concentration of material with different magnetic and gravitational signatures than the surrounding rock. This anomaly extended for kilometers and seemed to pulse faintly with geothermal activity. Some scientists hypothesized that it represented a remnant of ancient volcanic magma still faintly active after hundreds of millions of years. Others speculated that the anomaly might interact with Earth's magnetic field, explaining why compasses behaved erratically in the region and why electrical instruments frequently malfunctioned near the site. Even more mysterious was the discovery of crystalline structures found in the lower layers, crystals so perfectly formed they seemed synthetic. These formations contained trace elements that could only have developed under extraordinary pressure and heat. Their symmetrical design fascinated researchers, suggesting natural processes that mimic precision engineering on a molecular level. If nature had created them, it was doing so with an artistry that rivaled human craftsmanship. Archaeological teams, meanwhile, continued to explore the surface areas around the eye, uncovering evidence of ancient habitation. They found shards of pottery, remnants of fire pits, and skeletal remains of animals long extinct. Carbon dating placed many of these findings between 9,000 and 11,000 years ago, corresponding with the last period of the Sahara's greening. It appeared that early humans, possibly the ancestors of later North African cultures, had flourished here before the desert overtook them. Yet there was still the question of the deeper anomalies. Who or what created the underground chambers? And why were they built beneath a geological structure of such complexity? Some researchers proposed that the eye had been revered as a sacred site long before the advent of recorded history. Its immense circular form, visible even from great distances, could have served as a natural temple, a gateway between earth and sky. The subterranean structures might have been ritual spaces, places where early humans sought connection with the forces they perceived as divine. Other scientists took a more pragmatic view, suggesting that the chambers may have served as ancient shelters or water storage systems built during times of climatic instability. If so, it would mean that early civilizations were far more resourceful and technologically capable than previously believed. The precision with which these chambers were aligned hinted at an understanding of engineering principles lost to time. Still, a small contingent of researchers could not shake the feeling that the eye held secrets beyond conventional explanation. The peculiar magnetic readings, the astronomical carvings, and the strange isotopic signatures all suggested interactions between Earth and cosmic forces on a scale not yet fully understood. Some theorized that the eye might have been a focal point for ancient energy, a place where geological, magnetic, and even celestial alignments converged. Whether by coincidence or design, It appeared to have been a nexus of power and knowledge. As exploration continued, attention turned to the deeper geological strata beneath the eye. Drilling operations reached unprecedented depths, uncovering layers of rock unlike any found elsewhere in the region. In these layers, scientists found microscopic fossils of unknown origin, organisms that didn't match any known species in Earth's fossil record. Their discovery hinted at the possibility of unique evolutionary pathways, perhaps isolated ecosystems that thrived beneath the surface during the Sahara's wetter epochs. Every discovery led to more questions. How did such life forms survive? What caused the massive geological uplift that created the eye's dome? Could ancient humans have witnessed its formation, recording the event in the carvings found in the chambers below? The answers remained elusive, yet the patterns emerging from the data suggested an intertwined story of geology, climate, and humanity. A story of creation, destruction, and rediscovery written in stone. The Eye of the Sahara, once thought to be a barren relic, began to reveal itself as a living archive of Earth's transformation. It stood as a symbol of how much remains hidden beneath the surface, waiting for technology and curiosity to bring it into light. The layered rings represented not only the passage of geological time, but also the cyclical nature of human civilization, rise, fall, and rebirth. With each new expedition, scientists grew more aware of the delicate balance between myth and reality that surrounded the site. While popular culture rushed to label it as the Lost Atlantis, researchers preferred to let evidence speak. What they found beneath the sands was indeed civilization, but one that had emerged from Africa's heart long before written history, long before the first pyramids rose or the first cities of Mesopotamia shone in the desert sun. The night skies above Mauritania are clearer than almost anywhere else on Earth. When the sun sets and the wind settles, the vast Sahara opens to the stars in all their silent magnificence. From the ground, the Eye of the Sahara cannot be seen in its entirety, only felt. The slow curvature of its rocky ridges, the rhythmic rise and fall of its eroded sandstone, and the endless horizon that swallows everything into shadow. It is only from space that its full hypnotic symmetry becomes apparent, an immense spiral in the world's largest desert, a shape so perfect that it almost seems carved by intelligence rather than time. But beneath those spiraling layers lies a world far more complex than anyone once believed, a hidden labyrinth of memory and stone that tells the story of Earth's forgotten heart. When scientists began descending into the fissures and caverns discovered beneath the Richat Structure, they realized they were entering a space untouched for tens of thousands of years. The first expeditions reported narrow passageways cut through quartzite, smooth in places as if worn by human hands, yet also marked with striations consistent with slow geological grinding. The deeper they went, the more bizarre the landscape became. Walls shimmered faintly with mineral deposits that refracted light like glass, and veins of crystal pulsed under the beams of their lamps. Instruments recorded unusual readings, electromagnetic fields oscillating unpredictably, temperatures fluctuating even in sealed areas, and the faint hum of resonance when certain stones were struck. Geophysicists suggested that the eye might act as a natural amplifier, a kind of geological resonator created by the circular layering of rock. This unique formation could channel underground vibrations, turning seismic energy into audible frequencies. It was possible, they hypothesized, that ancient peoples living near the eye would have heard the Earth itself sing during tectonic shifts or storms, its low tones echoing through the rock chambers. To early humans, such phenomena might have seemed supernatural, the voice of gods or spirits within the Earth. If they built chambers or shrines here, it might have been in response to that deep, mysterious resonance that made the very ground seem alive. As excavations expanded, teams discovered more than 30 interconnected cavities at varying depths, each exhibiting distinct architectural characteristics. Some were narrow, seemingly functional corridors, while others opened into large halls whose ceilings arched in symmetrical curves. The largest chamber yet uncovered measured nearly 60 meters across, with a domed ceiling supported by pillars carved directly from the surrounding rock. The symmetry was remarkable, far too precise to be a product of natural erosion. Laser scanning confirmed that the pillars were evenly spaced in a radial pattern pointing toward the center of the room, At that center lay an altar-like structure made of an unfamiliar composite material, a blend of silicates and metals fused in a way not replicated by any known natural process. Analysis revealed traces of manganese, titanium, and an unusually high concentration of carbon nanotube-like formations embedded in the matrix. The scientists could not determine how such material had formed, given the lack of industrial technology in prehistoric times. The structure seemed to have been melted or forged under extreme heat, possibly exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. No evidence of such high-temperature processes existed for the period corresponding to the radiocarbon age of the sediments, nearly 11,600 years ago, right at the cusp of the Younger Dryas climate event. This discrepancy raised the possibility that the Eye of the Sahara had witnessed or even played a role in a cataclysmic event involving intense heat and energy. Geological evidence in the surrounding region supported this theory. Layers of vitrified rock, stone that had been melted and rapidly cooled, were found in scattered deposits along the Eye's periphery. In several locations, the sand itself had fused into glass, forming a substance similar to trinitite, which is produced only under extreme temperatures such as those generated by lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, or nuclear detonations. Yet there were no volcanoes here, and no modern industrial activity could account for the vitrification. If a meteorite or comet fragment had exploded in the atmosphere above the region thousands of years ago, it might have generated such effects. The resulting shockwave could also have caused the subterranean fractures and the magnetic anomalies now observed beneath the Eye. But this explanation did not account for the carvings and symbols found within the deeper chambers. Anthropologists examining the engravings noted a repeated motif, concentric circles connected by lines radiating outward, resembling both the structure of the Eye itself and the orbital paths of celestial bodies. Some panels showed what appeared to be human-like figures arranged around a central disk, while others depicted waves, mountains, and what looked like a great burst of light. If these carvings represented a record of an actual event, perhaps a meteor impact or a cosmic explosion, they could be the earliest visual documentation of a natural cataclysm witnessed by humans. The correlation between these symbols and later mythological patterns found across civilizations sparked immense debate. The imagery of a great flood, a fiery descent from the heavens, and the destruction of an advanced culture reappears in myths from Sumer, Egypt, and even Mesoamerica. It was as if fragments of one collective memory had scattered across time and continents. Could it be that the Eye of the Sahara was the origin point of this mythic memory? A place where an ancient civilization witnessed an apocalyptic event that erased its existence, leaving only stories and symbols behind. Further analysis of the artifacts retrieved from the chambers deepened the mystery. Among the items cataloged were fragments of what appeared to be ceramic or stone tablets, each etched with complex patterns of dots and dashes. Linguists attempting to decode them noticed mathematical sequences resembling the Fibonacci pattern and ratios consistent with the golden mean. Numerical relationships later found in the architecture of ancient temples and pyramids worldwide. If these patterns were intentional, it indicated an astonishing level of mathematical sophistication. Meanwhile, paleo-environmental studies painted a vivid picture of the Sahara as it once was. Core samples taken from sediments beneath the Eye contained pollen traces from plants that no longer exist in the region, evidence of dense forests, flowing rivers, and vast lakes. Fossilized fish remains and mollusks confirmed that the area had once been part of an immense freshwater system. These findings aligned with satellite imaging that revealed the ghost outlines of ancient riverbeds radiating outward from the Eye like arteries. The structure had likely sat at the center of an enormous basin, making it a natural focal point for early settlement. Archaeologists began to suspect that the Eye may have served as the heart of a once thriving civilization that harnessed its natural resources and geological features. The circular design could have provided natural defense, water collection, and navigational advantages. Its proximity to ancient trade routes, which later connected North Africa to sub-Saharan regions, suggested it could have been a crossroads of early human culture, perhaps the earliest known city built around geological geometry. At the same time, geologists studying the Eye's bedrock layers found unmistakable signs of deep hydrothermal activity. In certain zones, quartz veins contained microscopic inclusions of liquid water, that had been trapped for millions of years, preserving traces of the planet's primordial chemistry. Some of these inclusions even contained organic molecules, amino acids, and carbon chains, which hinted at the building blocks of life. It was conceivable that the eye's ancient hydrothermal systems had served as a cradle for microbial life long before complex organisms emerged. This revelation extended the site's importance beyond archaeology. It became a key location for astrobiological studies as well, offering analogs for how life might form on other planets with similar geological features. The magnetic anomalies continued to fascinate physicists. Instruments recorded fluctuations that seemed to pulse in regular cycles, as though the eye's subsurface structure interacted rhythmically with Earth's geomagnetic field. One hypothesis proposed that the spiral shape of the formation, combined with conductive mineral deposits, acted like a natural electromagnetic coil, concentrating magnetic lines of force. This could explain reports from explorers who experienced dizziness, disorientation, and even mild electrical shocks when approaching certain regions of the formation. Such natural electromagnetic phenomena might have been perceived as mystical energies by ancient peoples, fueling myths of sacred or cursed ground. Teams working at the site began to catalog not only artifacts, but also patterns of alignment between the eye's features and celestial coordinates. The outermost ring corresponded roughly to the rising and setting points of the solstices, while the inner rings matched the angles of certain star paths visible during the prehistoric epoch. The structure itself, though formed naturally, seemed to have been adopted as a cosmic map by its ancient inhabitants. They may have seen the heavens reflected in the land, a philosophy later echoed in the Egyptian dictum, "as above, so below." This symbolic mirroring suggested that the people who once lived here had developed an early form of astronomical observation, possibly using the eye as a massive, living observatory. Meanwhile, biologists examining fossilized plant and animal remains uncovered near the eye identified species that suggested a climate far more temperate than today's. Herds of antelope, crocodiles, hippos, and even early cattle roamed the area. Traces of domesticated grains were also discovered, an early form of millet, dating back more than 9,500 years. If confirmed, this would push the origins of agriculture in Africa back by thousands of years, suggesting that farming may have begun here, at the heart of the Sahara, long before it spread to the Nile Valley. The discovery of charred hearth sites and bone fragments bearing tool marks confirmed human habitation during this period. These early settlers lived along the ancient lake shores, building circular stone dwellings and burying their dead with ritual precision. Some burial sites included offerings of polished stones, shells, and pigments made from crushed minerals, an early sign of symbolic thought and spiritual practice. The proximity of these sites to the eye hinted at its central role in their cultural and possibly religious life. The circular motif of the eye itself may have become a sacred symbol of eternity, the cycle of life, or the cosmos. At greater depths, the excavators reached levels that defied explanation. Beneath the oldest human layers, in geological strata predating the known Holocene occupation, they encountered structures of an entirely different order. Smooth, fused surfaces and geometrically precise cuts embedded in solid rock. Some were so regular that laser analysis showed deviations of less than a millimeter across several meters. These could not have been created by hand tools. If natural, they represented an unknown process of mineral formation. If artificial, they suggested a lost technology beyond any currently attributed to prehistoric humanity. Material scientists studying these formations discovered traces of crystalline silica aligned in hexagonal arrays, a configuration typical of engineered metamaterials. Though this might have formed under unique geological pressures, it bore uncanny resemblance to certain synthetic materials used in modern photonics. The notion that a natural process could replicate such structure was extraordinary, challenging the boundary between geology and technology. It was as though nature itself had performed engineering on a molecular scale, guided by laws that early humans may have observed and attempted to imitate. As word of these discoveries spread, the Eye of the Sahara became the center of intense academic rivalry and speculation. Some researchers argued for caution, emphasizing that extraordinary claims required extraordinary evidence. Others saw in the data the outlines of a revolution in understanding ancient human capability. The question was no longer whether the eye had witnessed civilization, but what kind of civilization it might have been, and how much of its story had been erased by time. There were signs that whatever society had flourished here met a sudden and catastrophic end. In the deepest habitation layers, ash deposits and evidence of violent flooding appeared abruptly, cutting off the cultural sequence. The dating corresponded with global evidence of abrupt climate change around 12,000 years ago, a period when the Earth warmed rapidly, ice sheets melted, and sea levels rose dramatically. This era of turmoil, known as the Younger Dryas Termination, may have brought torrential rains and massive floods to North Africa, transforming lakes into inland seas before the land dried into desert once more. If an advanced settlement had existed here, it could have been obliterated by such a deluge, leaving only buried ruins beneath the sand and rock. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on what scientists found under the Sahara? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.